My name is Tabiso Makwela, and I am from the Patriotic Alliance. I am the regional organizer in the city of Tshwane. Our manifesto as the Patriotic Alliance, one, we need to bring back God into our schools. We are a religious country. We consider ourselves to be Christians, and what we are seeing is that God is no longer in our schools. Kids don't even have assemblies anymore. It's evident in terms of how these kids are acting in the schools, is that they don't have fear at all. So that is one of the most important things. Secondly, we want to, deal with the issue of foreigners. We want to mass deport all the foreigners. To be more specific, illegal foreigners. And when I'm talking about foreigners, I'm not just referring to our black brothers. I'm talking about anyone who does not meet the requirement of the country to be here as a person. So whether you are Chinese, American, British, Zimbabwean, Nigerian, I'm talking about that. If you are illegal in this country, then we consider you as a criminal. Two, we want to bring the death penalty, because we believe that, criminals only understand one language. And to a certain extent, we are sitting in a country whereby we have 5.4 million unsolved cases with evidence. With evidence, and when you look at evidence, I'm talking about DNA, I'm talking about fingerprints. That shows that we are sitting with evidence of people that are not even part of us as a country. And we also want to deal with crime on both sides, because we understand that where there's a corrupter, there's also a corruptee. So we need to deal with crime, we need to deal with corruption. Now recently we have come to find out that REF has actually spent an amount of 18 billion that has been given out to so-called illegal foreigners. And that can only talk to one issue, and one issue only: the department is corrupt to the core. Because these people do not just, apply for these things without having proper documentation. Somebody in there is making it possible for them. So those are the ones that I can say for now we need to deal with. Obviously, job creation, yada, 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 those are the things that we are going to mainly concentrate on.
Okay. Kelebogile Moraka from ELF South Africa, Economic Liberation South Africa. So essentially, as an organization, we are grounded at the grassroots of politics. We started off as a business forum, and essentially, we are about engaging communities directly and listening to what their lived experiences are. And we are essentially aiming to amplify their voices and empower active participation through practical solutions by centering the perspectives of most affected by poverty. So we would like to ensure that our interventions are contextually relevant and responsive to the unique challenges that are faced by communities. And as asked, in our manifesto, we are trying to prioritize the root of poverty, including systematic inequality and the lack of basic services in this country, including the economic marginalization. This involves the implementation of multidimensional initiatives and to promote economic empowerment, social justice, and community development tailored through specific needs and priorities. So essentially, as an organization, we are looking at bringing practical solutions to the people. And that speaks to the educational system, that speaks to the healthcare, the crime, and so many other factors that are affecting our South African community.
Thank you. Question back to you, my patriot.
Yes.
You said 18 billion.
Yes.
For illegal.
Illegal and foreigners.
Okay, explain.
That is actually an amount that REF has paid to these people. Now you ask yourself that if REF can actually submit 18 billion worth of South African rands in terms of giving it to both legal and illegal immigrants, that is money that could have been used for something else. So now it means that we are dealing with a very deep, rotten workforce in that department. And, I would even go to the extent to say if it was a private company, heads were going to roll. But as usual, this thing is one of those, issue that is going to be swept under the carpet and is going to be life as usual. But, after the 29th of May, I think with us in power, with us in government, such things are not going to be let to slide. Because this is money that does not include claims from South Africans. I'm only talking about illegal immigrants and legal immigrants that have claimed. Of course, legal immigrants have the right to claim because they came in this country and they complied with the laws of the country. So if they get injured, the law makes it provision for them to claim. But what about illegal? Why are they claiming? How is it possible that any illegal foreigner can even claim for REF in South Africa? That person's a criminal. He's breaking our laws. So we're not going to tolerate such behavior, especially when it comes to illegal foreigners.
Do you blame the Road Accident Fund?
I blame them, and they must all be fired, including the head, starting from the CEO or the boss or the director, because his staff is corrupt.
Remember, he, Collins Letswalo, did not want to give illegal foreigners, and they took him to court.
Yes.
And the court said he must pay. So,
so we are.
You can't blame him.
No, we can. We can. It shows you the extent of corruption that is in there. If our courts, the so-called independent judiciary system that is supposed to protect us as the citizens of the country is not, then we are sitting with a big problem. I'm talking about highly educated individuals here that went to school to become judges, and they're going to make sanctions like that. They're going to make rulings like that, going against the constitution of the country. How can you give a criminal money because he's got a broken leg? That's pure corruption at its best. And we must deal with such things. We are not going to tolerate such nonsense after the 29th of May.
Thank you very much. Mamra, have you got anything you want to ask him?
Yeah, I hear Mr. Mashawan. Makwela, apologies. Yes. I hear he's raising a concern, but what are you saying as the Patriotic Alliance? What are your accountability processes? Are those things that you're already doing within the organization? I just want to raise, so we already have accountability processes within our organization that we've already established. We should not wait to be in parliament before we hold people accountable. You, as a citizen first, before you're an organization, are allowed to make inputs on such matters and equally engage them as a citizen. So as an organization, have you made steps as citizens of this country to put them accountable for such things? What are your accountability processes as an organization?
It's funny that you should ask that. We have such an example because I remember 2016 we had one seat in the city of Joburg, and we took the infrastructure, I think it was the infrastructure if my memory serves me well, and with that one seat we cleaned the whole of the city of Joburg. We got rid of corrupt individuals that were doing deals. We solved issues such as the water issue, because there's this thing, my comrades, they would want to block amanzi just to make sure we dealt with that, especially a Reveille. So in terms of this one is something that has just been published now, right? I think a few weeks ago. So obviously as a patriot and as a concerned citizen, we have already made some few strides in terms of trying to raise an alarm through our leadership, so that they can get to the bottom of this, because 18 billion is a lot of money that can be just flushed through the drain, because that's exactly what we did. So to answer you, my sister, yes, we are on it. Yes, we are busy with it, but due to what is happening, because we are now left with how many days? I think 15 days to the 29th of May. So everything is all hands on deck, but I can promise you, I'll be in front going to that department to get rid of them.
No, I think as organizations, especially those that are considered unrepresented organizations in the state, it's crucial that we are proactive and bring solutions to the plate. So as an organization, as ELF, we have figured that South Africa has a water crisis. And given the water crisis that South Africa is facing, very soon the Lesotho water line will be closing. And that's something that our state is not necessarily talking about. Given that we have already put measures in place, we have already done a few boreholes. We've done one in Vembe. We just completed one in the Northwest Province. And we are working on doing others in the other neighboring provinces. But essentially, I feel it's essential that we proactively address matters before they become a hurdle in our communities, especially essentials. We cannot be letting our communities suffer when it comes to their basic needs.
Yeah.
It's not fair, especially where the state is involved. I mean, government knew years ago that this would happen, but there was no proactive measures that were put in place to ensure that they supply and sustain this. And they've allowed it to drag until now, where we find ourselves in a crisis. In a few months' time, I know a lot of organizations are now running to the polls and trying to ensure that they secure the polls, but what are we doing about finding practical solutions that will serve our people by the time we get to those polls? Because the polls don't really matter when our communities are suffering and in dire need.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing. It's very nice that you should bring an issue of water shedding. As PA, we don't talk. We execute. We talked about the issue of borders. December last year, we were right there at the borders, making sure that people are going back. So if you go to Lesotho right now, which is a different country on its own, and you go look at the rivers that we are taking water from, there's nothing wrong with those levels. The levels are as healthy as they come. So you should ask yourself, if the levels and the rains have been raining all this time, why do we have a problem of water?
But our main supply is coming from Lesotho, hence that needs to be addressed. So it's very crucial that we keep our system and our communities informed in terms of how our processes are running. Yes, our government system is not necessarily providing a proper infrastructure, and that's something that we are working towards. We are developing policies already that by the time that we find ourselves within a policy development structure, once we find ourselves on the other side of the polls, we should be able to implement those policy and strategies. We are about implementing, hence I said we are about providing practical solutions to our communities. And already we have shown our communities that we are able to provide without state funding. If we are able to do that, what more when you're on the other side and you have that funding? So we need to be practical in ensuring that those solutions are provided.
Okay, can I come in?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Do you got any question for her?
Yeah, he's talking about implementing policies, right? And I just want to ask a question to say, EFF came with policies, ANC came with policies, all of them implemented, but none was done and none was achieved. So what makes you think that you'll succeed when you implement policies?
So essentially, it's approach, right? When you engage. So before we even decided that we are going to run for election or anything as an organization, we hosted several consultative sessions with our communities. throughout the country. We went and consulted these communities in terms of what is it that is affecting them, and what are their needs, and what is it that can be best done. So we assess. We don't just arrive and provide a solution. We consult our communities, which is a very crucial thing that our government is not doing at the moment. How often is government ensuring that our communities are consulted? How often do you then follow up on those communities and ensure that you're delivering? We do have officers and MPs that are saying that they are delivering on their KRAs, but how often is that checked up on? So we do need to do those follow-ups. We do consultation sessions. Post those consultation sessions, we do a follow-up to engage the community as to how far is it the remedy. We submitted a memorandum to the Vembe municipality not so long ago because there were communities in Vembe that have not had water for more than 30 years. I mean, in what world is that normal? Let us just look at that. It's been more than 30 years, and there are communities that have been without water for 30 years. If we consider that, that is a basic need. And if a government that has been leading for years has not been able to provide that, and we are able to do that in less than 3 months, that speaks for itself, right? So we do need to interact our communities, and post doing that boho, we did not just end it there. We continue to consult with the communities and see what further measures can be taken. So we've given the Vembe municipality until the 3rd of June to deliver on ensuring that the communities are then provided with the water and that they have their infrastructure sorted out. But if they should not do so, and this approach was an approach of citizens before it was an approach of an organization. And I think it's crucial that we make that emphasis, because we are about serving the citizens of this country and not necessarily the members of this organization. So it's crucial that we do that, consult, post-consulting, deliver, post-delivering, follow up, and see if people are really happy with what you've delivered, because delivering does not guarantee the success of whatever that you've delivered. So it's crucial that you follow up post that.
Okay, I'm just gonna throw one question at you for both of you. What is your policy on land, and how do you think South Africa must go ahead into getting land back to the people? It's as simple as that. So answer according to what your organization believes land must be given to black people.
As the Patriotic Alliance, we have what do you call it? I wouldn't say it's an alliance, but it's a league of royal affairs. Because history would dictate to us that most of the treaties that the so-called European countries have, they had them with kings and queens. There were no political parties back then. So now, putting them in place, it simply means we are talking to the issue of the land. We understand that kings and queens are custodians of the land. They are also custodians of our own culture. So based on that, we are working hand in hand with them to try and, deal with the issue of the land in terms of us as the people. Because now, we know that the land was taken from us, but we do not want to make the same mistake of trying to do what our oppressors did. So in a nutshell, I would say the land must actually go back to its original people, of which we believe that they are the Khoi and Sens, because they are the original people of this land. So from there, then we will then have to sit down and deal with the nitties and gritties, depending on whether it's urban or rural and so forth and so on.
Are you saying you want to give land to the Khoi and the San before you give the rest of
Obviously, we're not going to give it to them first, because now they are part of us, And when I mean us, I mean...
Consider them a different race from other Africans?
No.
So the San and the Khoi are African people?
I was just putting it out there because now, according to the history that we know, these are people that are supposed to, or should I say, natives of the land.
Yeah, we are all natives. Are we not?
In terms of occupation.
Are we not all indigenous
No,
people?
we are, but in terms of occupation, they are.
What do you mean?
Well, if you know your history, you would know that in the caves, in the stones, a scientific research was done to can try and see the oldest, drawings on the stones. And the oldest, they were like over 800 years old. That should tell you, and who actually drew those things. It was the Khoisan sense.
So are they more African than the other Africans?
No, they are not. They are not.
So they are equally African.
They are equally African
Thank you
people.
very much. Mama, please help us.
Well, when it comes to land, I think it was made clear in our manifesto, and we have come into a partnership with the tribal authorities. So essentially, we advocate for the optimal utilization of government-owned land and tribal authority land. And addressing the historical imbalances, I think he did speak on that, to promote sustainable agriculture practices and efficient land redistribution, right? Equally that with the land management strategies that we have as an organization. So we would essentially want to use this land for agricultural purposes and industrialization. So whether it means that we must lease this government-owned land in order for us to ensure that we boost our economy, then let it be. But essentially, we want to redistribute this land so that it's able to support the practices and sustain itself and the country overall, ensuring food security, rural development, and ensure that we support the responsible mining practices that are happening. Because if you look at in the Northwest Province, there's so much land that has been used for mining, but what are the what you call it?
Spin-offs.
Yes, post that mining process. Are we taking care of our land after we have mined in that land? So we need to find a process to rehabilitate that land so that it serves us and it serves our community, and better off develop a system that will equally benefit those communities where mines have previously been occupying the land, and essentially creating a sustainable environment that will benefit communities post whatever activities that will then be taking place there. So it's crucial that we as community holders use the land surrounding us to benefit us and boost our economy. We have delegated the responsibility to the government for too long. It's about time that we take this land, start farming, start ensuring that we have food security within ourselves, because too many things are being imported into this country and we are not benefiting out of that. Too many things are being exported, we are not benefiting still. So we must ensure that the minerals that we have in this country are benefiting us essentially.
Okay. Any questions from each other?
No. Just an addition. You see this brown part of the logo. That's what she's talking about. This one, it actually talks about the wealth in water, because South Africa is the only country that enjoys having both the wealth in the water, the wealth in the water, and the wealth on the ground. So we are actually speaking one and the same thing. It's just that I thought maybe she was going to be different to us. So yeah, I just wanted to add that to say, okay, now we understand where she's coming from, but we are clear. We want the land to go back to its rightful owners.
Have you done anything? Have you given people land?
Not as yet, unfortunately.
ELF, have you given people land?
So we haven't given people land, but we are working with tribal. We are working with an organization called FISA, and FISA is essentially works with tribal authorities. And we are speaking with those tribal authorities in order to establish some of these platforms that I'm raising, that we want to start agricultural processes, start farming in those communities, so that those communities can start benefiting the immediate surroundings in terms of ensuring that they provide, whether be it vegetables, whether be it whatever that they can produce out of that land, so that they start immediately benefiting out of that. So I know that he was referring to his logo and now it looks but essentially, as an organization, I know it may not be clear, but just put up our logo there. There's a road there, right? That road, at the end there are crops, there's a mine. So essentially, we are pushing for the industrialization. We want to start processes from the grassroots, start farming. That farming must ensure that whatever that is being produced must benefit our people. So we must stop taking in produce from foreign countries if we can produce it ourselves. Let us ensure that we are producing our own produce, selling it in our own markets, so that it can boost our own economy. Because at the moment, it does not make sense, right? We are growing maize, right? We sell this maize off to China, and we are not making even like 30% of whatever that is being sold, right? So we want our communities to benefit from that. But because they are not the ones in charge, because of the red tapes that are being put, it is blocking our community members from benefiting in that process. There's too much red tape that the government has put that is not allowing our communities to access the market. That's why they are unable to then run these processes and ensure that we have an equitable market. So essentially, we want to then remove those red tapes so that we can have a fair market. We also in partnership with an organization of informal traders, right? This organization, it's these people that you see on a daily basis that are selling vegetables, and that industry on itself makes about 20 billion a month. But we are not benefiting out of that because there are foreigners that are also taking from that, right? So we must be able to regulate and ensure that that economy is benefiting us, and they are regarded as informal traders by the government. But these are formal businesses. You know that umama that sells their potatoes or tomatoes there. Do you know how much those people make that we are not benefiting out of?
True.
So we need to embrace that selling culture and ensure that we support these structures. Let us give them the platform. Let us ensure that their working space is comfortable and is benefiting the economy. So we need to develop a structure and policies that speak to such markets that could benefit our economy overall.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Start with ELF. What is your idea about having a bank, a new bank that lives and thrives in different conditions than the current one we have? Ever since the democracy started, we've seen the amalgamated bank becoming ABSA, and then we had Capitec, and we've got Time Bank. I don't see the difference with what these new banks are making with what the big banks have been making. Tell us, what's your idea of a new bank that serves South Africans and Africans in particular? Whether it's the state bank or whatever, give me an idea of what would help you.
Look, if we go this route and we run our own economy, this would allow us proper way to regulate the economy. So if we take charge of our economy as South Africans and start regulating our industries properly, putting the proper red tape, removing these red tapes, and ensuring proper policies that will benefit us, I think we could potentially have a better economy. The problem now is that these banks, yes, they're there, but they're not serving us. The interest rates that are charged, there's just a lot happening. And given that, if we are in charge of our own economy, I think the rand would be in a better position, because then we would then be able to regulate ourselves. We'd be able to regulate the policies, the taxes. Look, taxes, I think this past month, a lot of people were complaining about the taxes because of the effect, because we are not regulating that process ourselves. So we need to put ourselves in a position where we are able to regulate, and the only way we can do that is if we are in control of our own economy.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, you know, my brother, if I were to be honest with you, we live in a country whereby even our own government does not believe and invest in their own, people. When you are a South African and you are an inventor, for you to be recognized and for you to receive funding, you have to go overseas. And the so-called Europeans will obviously claim you as one of their own. I'm talking about people like Elon Musk. If that man was here, he was never going to receive any funding from any, bank or any government institution. So it is very, very important for us as South Africans to can have a bank of our own, especially when we talk about the disadvantaged people of this country. My brother, it is easy for me to go and apply for a 1 million car. But when I want to apply for a 1 million loan, like she said, there are so many red tapes that, one needs to go through in terms of that. So we need that bank. I've heard speakers such as Bulelani Tlozi suggesting that we do have. This is one of the reasons why Mahatma Gaddafi was killed, obviously, because he was talking about uniting Africa economically, and we wanted to open up a bank in, Sandton, and it never materialized because of what happened to him. So that is one of those, important sector that I feel that because white people were deliberate in terms of, creating the wealth for themselves. And that's why we have Volkas, we have, Asupol, and now we have Boabsa. These are same people, different names, but same people owning this system.
Okay.
Can I come in?
Yes, say it and then also give us your parting shot in closing.
Okay, so I know there's an attempt in the economy to try and make spending easier, and I know this is a youth discussion and I want to just touch there on the youth, because the banking industry is trying to make it easier from their side. They're trying to make it easier to access funds, right? And there's these pages now, these options that they're giving to young people just to grasp their attention. But in the long run, you're not investing, you're not capitalizing on anything there. So it's not necessarily benefiting you in the long run. And if we had our own bank, we'd be able to create a proper system that is able to regulate such spending and probably put the youth in a better position if we also had the economic element properly taught from a younger phase at school, right? So we thrive for like vocational learning in institutions and overall, because we have seen a pattern that vocational education is more practical, and it's what the country needs now, right? So in doing that, we need to just ensure that the youth is aware of such things. Our youth is moving away from the country to secure the economic success. Why are we unable to do that within our own country? So as economic liberation, we are fighting poverty. That is our biggest opponent. We are not necessarily against any organization. At this point, our biggest fight is poverty and ensuring that we secure the economic liberation of this country. And that can only be done if we, as citizens of this country, become involved in the processes to ensure that happens. So as economic liberation, we essentially open up to all members to say, let us do this together. We are not saying delegate us to do this responsibility, but be part of this journey so that you are part of the people that do this with us. Take this country, make the transformation, be part of the transformation to ensure the changes are effective in this country.
Last question as a youth.
Yes.
Is it fair to cap jobs at 35 years to give them to the youth specifically? And just think of 70-year-olds who are in parliament when you answer that.
So why do we have 70-year-olds in parliament when the retirement is 65?
Yes.
Let's start.
Yeah. Let's question. Do whatever you want.
That's a very good
No,
question.
let's just start there. But anyway,
I want to hear.
it's just, yeah. But anyway, I just think we cannot cap. It's not realistic to cap at 35. Given that entry-level jobs require 2 years experience, they require you to have a certain, the requirements are unrealistic for the current market. So we need to relook that. Hence, we advocate for vocational learning, because you already come with that experience. So we need to implement the practical element in the education system so that when you come out, at least be prepared. Come with that 5 years experience already from school. But I think the expectation from the industries and the market is unfair on the youth, because if somebody's finishing off their qualification at 23, they must ensure that they get their 3 years experience before they can get the entry level. And what are the chances of a young person getting that internship or that placement? So many graduates are unemployed. We have an increase of 12%. We are sitting at 30, I think this morning we were at 32.9% of unemployment. So we need to relook these requirements, entry job requirements, and ensure that they fit what the educational system is providing to the graduates, to all the learners, so that immediately when you exit that sector, you know there's something waiting for you. But the problem is that not enough people are exiting the working system. So we must also regulate that retirement age. Our people, our companies are keeping up with that. And I'm not just speaking to private companies. Is our state keeping up with that?
Thank you. Same question and close.
Yes, you know, when you talk about the youth of the country, currently we are sitting on 59.40% of the unemployment rate of the youth. I think this is the fourth quarter, if I'm not mistaken, and which is the last part of the manifesto of the Patriotic Alliance, to say we are going to deal with this thing in both ways. The first one is mass deportation of all illegal immigrants, because immediately when you mass deport these people, you are automatically solving the issue of unemployment, because some of the jobs that are being occupied by this so-called immigrants or illegal immigrants are directly the jobs that were supposed to be taken by this youth. Two, we are going to send the youth to the army to can make sure that they acquire certain skills while they are in the army, because in the army you've got so many, things that you can do. You can become an engineer, you can become a mechanic, you can become whatever it is that you want to do, because we understand very well that not everyone is academic. Some people are good with their hands, some people are gifted up here. So that's how we are going to deal with the issue of the age. We have already made it clear. I think the president has already made it clear to say it doesn't make sense This is where corruption comes in. This is where capitalism is actually manipulating our people and taking advantage of them. This issue of 35 and here, we don't see, people at the age of 35, not having the same challenges that the youth are having. And the reason why I'm saying this is because of the issue of unemployment. Unemployment currently is sitting on 32.10%, 0.10%.
And then what about people at 60 years old?
Those people, obviously, according to our constitution, are supposed to be retired, right? So we are also going to keep it like that. But if one can work, one can work. We're not going to stop anyone. One can work because we need that people to be active and to do things in our country. We need the skill, we need the knowledge, we need the experience, because one thing that we are lacking in this country is the experience. So we having been forced to look at other countries so that we can bring people here for that kind of experience, and yet we've got experience in our country and we are not using it. So we want to also deal with that. So in closing, I can say mabahambe, mass deportation will be the order of the day. And I would like to even ask to say, hey, if you don't have your things right, come the 29th of May, you are going to face a problem. And we are serious. There's already a plan in place. I feel sorry for these people.
Thank you.
Salute.